Hello everyone, welcome to episode 28 of the Drunken Boxing Podcast, coming to you from an almost mid-autumn festival, Beijing. Yes, the time to eat mooncakes and prepare for the incoming winter is upon us already here in Beijing. Before we get into today's podcast episode, let's go over some general news and info. I'm happy to promote a company located here in China, up in Dalian, which produces excellent swords. The Hanwei Sword Company has a long history of being first established in 1990, and with that are one of the most experienced bladesmiths in the field here. While the company is well known overseas, I'm still surprised when I speak to people who are not familiar with them, particularly Chinese martial artists. Hanwei Forge produces not only Chinese-style swords and weaponry, but they also produce Japanese swords as well as European types. They are meticulous about their products and have a high standard of quality that they adhere to, which sets them apart from many such companies. Personally, I have a few of their swords and I highly recommend their products. They range from basic entry-level items all the way up to exquisite collector's pieces. You may view their products at their official website, which is hanweimetal.com. While the website is in Chinese, it is quite self-explanatory, and the general manager, Mr. Poon, can speak English and is highly accommodating to customers. So, if you have any queries or would like to contact them for an order, you may do so by email at the email address which I have put in the show notes and in the description. Alrighty, moving on. I have been contacted many times by listeners asking if I know of a good distance Chinese learning program. Being involved in Chinese martial arts and its related cultures, having some Chinese language proficiency is always going to help you with your endeavors in learning these arts. With that, I can highly recommend eChinese Learning. They are a well-established company based in China and operate internationally, and they offer one-on-one online language training for people wishing to learn Chinese. They offer tailor-made programs based on each person's individual needs, whether you are looking to pass Chinese language proficiency tests, or learn business English for work, or just to learn as a hobby for everyday Chinese. Being a professional company, they are available for you to set up your lessons at any time that suits you, 24/7, which is quite useful if you have a tight schedule. All their teachers are professional language teachers, and they are well established in the industry. Listeners of the Drunken Boxing Podcast can sign up for a free trial lesson, no strings attached, by going to the link listed in both the show notes and the description. If you are keen on learning the Chinese language, give them a try. On to Mushin martial culture news. I have finally released the second episode of the hidden history of Shuaijiao in the Kung Fu Explained series. This series has been a lot of work and taken up a lot of my time. Basically, I was focusing on researching, referencing, and investigating many sources for this, both in English and Chinese, and this was a monumental task. Hence, I wasn't able to release any other interesting things in the interim. There is still one more episode planned for the series, at least one I hope, but the second episode that I have just released clears up much of the modern history regarding Shuaijiao. So head on over to the Mushin Martial Culture YouTube channel and check it out. Your support on Patreon enables me to continue to produce the content that I do, and I'm truly thankful for any and all support. If you enjoy my endeavors and would like to pledge some support for the podcast or the channel, you may do so through the Patreon site. The Patreon site may be found at patreon.com/Mushin Martial Culture. That's Mushin Martial Culture, all one word. Again, it's in the show notes if you're looking for the link. And for those of you that are looking to study the arts of Xingyi Quan and Baguazhang, on the Mushin Martial Culture Patreon site, apart from the general support tiers, you will find a third tier, the Huajin tier, which is the online learning tier. Here, you have the ability to study the arts of Xingyi Quan and Baguazhang from me through a comprehensive program which features in-depth lesson videos and learning support. The lesson content on the platform is continually growing, and I have structured the system to accommodate people that are distance learning on their own, or even with a teacher to further supplement their learning in the art. It's structured in a systematic manner with in-depth lessons on both the arts of Xingyi Quan and Baguazhang, focusing on the entire curriculum of these arts. These systems are large, so they are not simply forms as many people think. They've learnt a form and they learnt a system. That is not the case. And through my online system, you have the ability to learn the art in full. Alright, another way you can support my endeavors is by purchasing any of the Mushin Martial Culture merchandise available on our Teespring store. This includes various t-shirts and other items. I try to regularly release new designs as they are completed, so check it out. You can view the merchandise at the Mushin Martial Culture Teespring store. The link is in the show notes, or you may simply search for Mushin Martial Culture within the Teespring site itself, which is teespring.com. That's teespring.com. drunkenboxingpodcast@gmail.com. All right, let's get into today's episode. This month's guest is the one and only Mark Houghton. Originally from England, Mark moved to Malaysia at a young age to pursue his dream of learning Chinese martial arts. His fate found him then going to Hong Kong to study under the great Lau Kar Leung, and Mark became a well-known action stuntman within the Hong Kong film industry. He has worked on over 40 movies, alongside some of the greatest action stars, on films including The Legend of the Drunken Master and Knockoff. He did this during the golden age of Hong Kong action movies, where stunts and action sequences were done by talented action actors who literally put life and limb on the line every single day. And this is what they became famous worldwide for. Mark is not only unique being a Westerner working in this field, but also for being Lau Kar Leung's former and chief disciple. Lau Kar Leung was not only a legend within Hong Kong cinema, but also within the art of Hung Gar. In 2018, Mark Houghton released a documentary about his fascinating life called I Am the White Tiger. In this discussion, Mark Houghton retells his history and recounts some of the numerous fascinating tales from his interesting life, including his life with Lau Kar Leung, a man who Mark made profound promises to prior to his passing, which Mark continues to fulfill and live up to this day. So with that, I give you Mark Houghton. All right, welcome to the Drunken Boxing Podcast, Mr. Mark Houghton. I'm honored to have you as my guest today.
Thank you very much, and I'm honored to be on as one of your guests and talk about my life.
Yes, and indeed, what a life you've had. We have a mutual friend who basically a while ago told me a little bit about you, and of course you have the I Am the White Tiger documentary that was released. I think it's about two years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago. Yeah.
2 years ago, in which you go into some detail about your life and your background, which was fascinating. I mean, you've had quite an experience, quite a very interesting life with some very important people as well that have you've spent time with and have had a major influence in your life.
Yeah, I've been very lucky to meet right people at the right time. It's helped me in my life.
For sure. Some people would say, well, that's just destiny. And isn't it always the fact that in Chinese martial arts, we usually say to meet your teacher or your master, it's usually it's about destiny.
Yeah, most things are predestined. But a lot of people in the West, whether they believe that or not is another thing.
Yeah. Well, maybe we could get into a little bit about your background. I mean, I know you originally hail from the United Kingdom, but maybe you could give a little bit of background for the people that are listening.
Yeah, I was born in the UK, and when I left school and started to work, I was very lucky to meet a Chinese guy. His name is Wong Cheng. His fan name is Takano Willie in English. Okay. And he was he'd studied at university in the UK, and then he got a job there as well, and he was living there, and I got to meet him, and we made friends. And I was only 16 at the time, and he was 27. And I told him that I was really crazy about Chinese martial arts, but I couldn't really find a good teacher in the UK. Mm-hmm. So, eventually as our relationship grew, he gave me the opportunity to go to Malaysia and live with his family and learn martial arts in Malaysia. So my first journey as a young teenager was flying to Singapore to Johor Bahru, which is just across the causeway. And his family had a hotel called Johor Hotel. Wow. And I lived there with them, and I helped do chores in the hotel. And they gave me pocket money, and I was lucky enough to meet a Hung Gar master. But first of all, I next to the hotel there was a White Crane School. Oh. So I joined the White Crane School first, and then one of the staff from the hotel told me to see a midnight show, kung fu show, and Hamdi, one of Lau Kar Leung's films. So I was like, once I seen Lau Kar Leung, I was like crazy on him. Who's this guy? What style does he do? And I found out he did Hong Kun. Yeah. So then I asked if there's any Hong Kun masters in Johor, and I was looking to find one. And his name was Ho Kam Wei. And it was funny because when I was first introduced to him, he was so skinny, and he was drunk because he likes to drink, especially Guinness Stout. Every night he would drink until he's drunk. And when I first was introduced to him, he looked at me and says, "Chinese Kung Fu is for Chinese, Western boxing for Westerners. Go home."
Oh, wow.
And I was like, "Wow, okay."
Well, what year was
And
this?
then
Sorry, just so we can get some context, because this is quite a while ago.
this was 1980, 81.
Wow, okay.
No. And then I looked at my friend and said, "Well, we might as well go." He said, "No, he likes to drink. Englishmen can drink. Drink with him." So I drank with him all night. And then I left. And the next day, my friend came to me and goes, "The master called you to go to his house." And I said, "Why?" I said, he doesn't want to teach foreigners. So what's the point? He goes, no, believe me, come with me. So I went to his house, and he demonstrated the Fork Song Ying Tiger and Crane Fist for me. And my mouth dropped. I couldn't believe this skinny guy could move like he did with so much power and fluidity in the movements, And I just looked at him and I said, "How much do you charge for lessons?" He says, "I won't charge you anything if you can last a week." He says, "But I don't think you will last a week. Before the week's up, you'll run away." So I said, "Okay, you're on." So the first lessons were doing stance training. And he stood behind me with a cane, a bamboo cane. And every time I moved, he hit me in the back or hit me in the legs. And he hit me so hard that welts would come up on my body.
Wow.
And he was so determined to make me not come back, But the next day I came back and repeated the lesson, same thing, hitting me with a cane. And then he introduced me to Hung Gar's, very famous for, one, it's low stances, two, it's strong bridge hand. So Q Sao. So that's 6 inches of each side of your wrist. And he had a bamboo log, and he drilled out and filled with lead shot inside to make it heavy. And he hung that from the doorway. And you'd hit that in Da Sam Sing, what we call it in Cantonese. And we'd use that to strengthen our wrists and our forearms. And it made me do that until my arms were black and blue and my hands were shaking. At the same time, the horse stances, and he'd hit me with a cane. And he kept doing that for a whole week. And as the week progressed, he'd hit me harder and everything. But, after the 7 days, the 8th day, I turned up and I says, "Well, you've got to teach me now, and it's free of charge." And he just laughed. And he said, "Okay."
Well, that's great. That's great. I mean, he was basically testing you, and I don't actually think that it was only because you were a foreigner. I mean, I think that he would have tested anybody to see if they were serious, to be a serious student.
Well, the other Chinese students didn't go to that extreme.
Oh.
He hits them occasionally, but not to that extreme because they were paying.
I see.
But, to me, he didn't really believe that a Westerner could learn Chinese martial art. He was a carpenter by trade. He left school when he was 12. So he wasn't very well educated. But he had a computer mind for Chinese martial arts. He could watch someone demonstrate a form 3 times, and he could play the form.
Wow.
He was unbelievable. Until now, I've never met anybody that could do that. He was just out there.
What was there? I mean, was it a popular style where you were in Malaysia, Hung Gar?
Well, they had the Cantonese Association, which taught Hong Kong. Then they had, I think it was the Fukien Association who was teaching the White Crane. Yeah. All different associations were teaching different type of martial arts, But yeah, I mean, Hong Kong, White Crane, and Bat Pai were the 3 most common martial arts in Malaysia at that time.
Right, right. And most of the Chinese community there, I mean, a lot of them were descended from southern families in the south of China, so they carried this art across.
Yeah, well, I mean, the family I lived with was actually Hainanese.
Oh,
So I
wow.
live with a Hainanese family, you know, but still, it's still southern part of China, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, mostly in Malaysia, they're southern part, speaking Hokkien, Hakka, Teochew, Cantonese Mandarin. So, I mean, they're mixed, very mixed variety of Chinese there.
So you were this young lad who got besotted with Chinese martial arts, and if I recall correctly, you mentioned something in your film about watching a Bruce Lee movie, and was it Bruce Lee that set you off when you were still in England?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I started judo when I was 14.
Mm-hmm.
Because our school had judo in the sports center there at night time. So I joined that. And then the Bruce Lee movies came out. So, I managed to sneak into the cinema being underage
Oh,
and watching one of his movies. So that, I mean, I was really into Japanese martial arts before that.
all right.
So I did some judo, a bit of karate, tried a little bit of taekwondo. But after seeing Bruce's film, and of course it was, I got to find a Chinese master. But it was very hard to find. I mean, in London, you had the Wing Chun guys,
Mm.
you know, but everywhere else in England, I mean, majority were karate guys putting on Chinese clothes, uniforms, and saying they were Chinese martial arts.
Oh, wow.
But no way. So, but I mean, again, I was lucky to meet Willie, who gave me the opportunity to live with his family in Malaysia. And that was the first step for me to become a real martial artist.
You know, that's actually really an amazing story that I mean he made that offer to you, seeing how sincere and how eager you were to learn. I mean, it's not everybody that sends, well, relative strangers off to go live with their family halfway across the world. That's very special.
Well, I mean, it wasn't until I was 18 that I went to Malaysia. So I was
Mm,
with Willie for 2 years, you
right.
know. We were together every day of the week for 2 years. So, I mean, we formed a real strong bond. He's like my big brother now. So
Yes.
his family actually adopted me so I could stay in Malaysia.
Oh, wow.
So, I call his father my father, so to me, he's my older brother, you know.
And when you decided to make that commitment, that trip to go halfway around the world, what did your own, I mean, your parents say about all of this?
Well, I mean, they thought I was crazy, but, I mean, England at that time, the parents wanted the kids out of the house as soon as they got to the age of working and could support themselves,
Okay.
you know. I mean, it's not like Chinese families where their bond is so strong that they stay together and they bring the wife into their husband brings the wife into his family
Mm,
and they live together and everything, I mean, England, you're 18 years old, get out, get your
right.
own place, do your own thing, So, I mean, it's just a completely different type of thinking and relationships there.
And that's also as a different generation. I mean, I think possibly your parents had gone through the difficulties of World War II. That life was more pragmatic than we are so protected today. People are a lot more independent and moving forward to actually make their way in the world at a younger age. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, I stayed there for three years.
Hmm.
Well, yeah, 18, 20, 22 when I came back.
Okay.
Nearly 4 years. But that was because of an incident that happened. Uh, I got stabbed 2 times. No, three
Wow.
times. I got stabbed 3 times. One in the femoral artery. So the blood was spurting out like 10,
Ooh.
15 feet. 2 people hung because they rammed a police officer with a car and killed him.
Oh, wow.
No, it was quite a big case. So after that case finished, I left Malaysia and went back to the UK. And then I opened up a kung fu school there
Mm.
in Birmingham. And yeah, just off New Street, this where the train station is, the major train station in Birmingham. And majority of my students were all from the Chinese community.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, and then I had that school for like 3, 4 years, and
Right.
then one guy brought his children in to learn from me,
Mm.
and then he asked me if I'd do bodyguard work, and I said yes. So I worked as his bodyguard for occasionally,
Okay.
and he owned some restaurants as well. So one night after working for him as a bodyguard, finished work, and he said, well, he says, come to the restaurant. The restaurant's closed, but we'll have a private dinner and a drink. So, no, I got there and we had a dinner and we started drinking whiskey and brandy and got a little bit drunk. Excuse me. And he said to me, oh, I know why you like Chinese Kung Fu. It's because of Bruce Lee. And I said, well, I said, not really. I said, Bruce Lee was the one who opened my eyes to Chinese Kung Fu.
Mm.
But my hero is Lau Kar Leung.
Right.
And he started laughing. And he says, well, that's funny, you should say that. And I said, why? He says, because his friend in Hong Kong is a business partner with Lau Kar Leung.
Wow.
And I went, could you arrange a meet for me? I guess I would fly to Hong Kong tomorrow. If I could just meet him and take a photo, and then I'd come back and put it in my school, I'd be so happy. He really is my hero. He said, okay, let me make some calls. So a week later, he said to me, he says, you still want to go to Hong Kong? I says, have you arranged the meeting? He said, yeah. Of course I want to go. He goes, so when are you going to buy a ticket? I said, I'll buy it tomorrow. So I bought the ticket and I flew straight to Hong Kong. And this was June or July 87.
Okay.
And I arrived in Hong Kong. They picked me up at the airport and his friends let me stay at his house. And then they said that Lau Kar Leung was filming for Cinema City, Tiger on the Beat Part 1.
Okay, great movie.
And they said they'd like me to come to the offices in Cinema City around 6:30 in the evening, and they would arrange it for me to see him. So I got to the offices, and I walked in. He was sitting there, and it was just unbelievable. Your hero, what you've seen on the silver screen, was sitting there in front of you. And he's only a small guy.
Mm.
And I just couldn't believe my eyes. I had to pinch myself to see it was real. And I spoke a little bit of Mandarin to him because in Malaysia I picked up some Mandarin, some Hainanese,
Right.
and some Hokkien, So I spoke a little bit of Mandarin to him, but then his Mandarin wasn't that good.
Right.
So I just said to him, hello, how are you? You're my hero, I learned Hung Gar because I saw your movies. And he said, oh, okay. He says, can you show me some Hung Gar then? So I demonstrated a little bit for him. I demonstrated Tiger and Crane.
Mm.
And he said, he says, for the Westerner, your stances are really low. They're very good. And I says, oh, thank you. And he stood up and he walked out the office and left.
Oh.
And I was standing there, oh, what's going on? What's going on? And I looked at the other guy in the office. And then after a minute or two, he came back and poked his head around the corner and said, aren't you coming? And the guy translated for me because he says, because at that time my Cantonese wasn't there.
Right.
And he says, he just said, aren't you coming? They're going for dinner. He's going to buy you dinner. So
Wow.
he took me for dinner. And then while we're having dinner, he said to me, he says, he's going to start a new movie soon, Aces Go Places Part 5.
Okay.
And he said, would I be interested in working for him? And I was like, would I be interested? I guess I would never turn an offer down to work for you. He goes, okay. He says, filming doesn't start till November. So come back in November and I'll put you in the movie. So I had only booked a ticket for 2 weeks at that time. So I flew back to the UK. And then I got my photos and that, and I told them my stories, and I know I'm going back to do this movie. But I decided to go back earlier. So I went back in October. And while I was there in October, another friend that was introduced to, he got me a part in a movie with Ko Fei. And that movie was Angel Killers, Ta Sao Tin Si. Okay. And that was my first movie I ever did. And I was fighting Moon Lee, Lei Choi Fong in that movie. You know? So that was pretty good experience before I got on set with my hero. You know? So then the actual time come when I was going to be on set the first time with Lau Kar Leung. And they were filming at the pier, the freight, where all the freights come in. The ships come in to unload the big freights.
Right.
And they were stealing a sword. So they had me dressed as a fireman on the first scene. So anyway, I got on set and he was filming, and he turned around and looked at me and he shouted, "Cut, cut, cut." And he told everybody, "Yao sick, take a rest," you know. And he called me over. And he says, Mark, he says, do me a favor. And I goes, what? He goes, demonstrate Tiger and Crane for everybody here. So I said, okay. So I started demonstrating Tiger and Crane. And out of the corner of my eye, I saw something move next to me. And I looked, and he was actually performing with me.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, how cool is this? You know, your hero performing Kung Fu with you. And then it was like, oh, maybe I should try to be faster than him. So I really started to move faster. And I should be more powerful than him. I really tried to put power in. But every time I moved, he was one step ahead of me.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter how fast I tried to move, he was always one step ahead. You know, and his power was just unbelievable. And I just couldn't keep up with him. No.
Yeah.
And when we finished, he just laughed. And he says, okay, go get changed. And then he said, okay, Hoi Kong, everybody start work again. And they started filming again, you know. And I just had this beam across my face.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure you were beaming.
And we were beaming. And halfway through this movie, he sat me down again and he said, Mark, he said, let me ask you a question. I said, yeah. He says, when this movie's finished, you're going back to the UK. What are you doing? I goes, well, yeah, I got a Kung Fu school there. He goes, well, he says, why don't you stay in Hong Kong and work for me?
Wow.
And I said, okay, can you wait a minute, please? And I asked one of the guys, could I borrow his phone? They had them big Motorola,
Right.
sounds like a brick. And he says, yeah, sure. I goes, I want a long distance call. He goes, okay, no problem. So I called back to the UK and I said, close my school, I'm never coming back.
Oh, no.
And that was it. I never left Hong Kong after that, you know.
And you've been there ever since, right?
I've been here ever since. I've been
That's
over
amazing.
32 years now, 33 years. Yeah. So, you know, that was my initial start to martial arts and my initial start to the movie industry and following the person who was my hero, you know.
You must have thought you wanted to pinch yourself. You must have thought you were dreaming that all of this was coming true.
Yeah, I mean, it was something that you'd fantasize about but would never happen in reality. You know? It just, you know, I just couldn't believe how lucky I was. And then I worked for him on Asia's Got Place Part 5. Then we did, I think we did Lo Fu Chuk Gan Dai Zap. So it's Tiger on the Beat Part 2.
Right.
And then I did an ATV TV series with him about Bruce Lee. He was Bruce Lee's father in the movie.
Oh, okay.
And I fought him. And then in 1991, came along Drunken Master 2 with Jackie. So he called me up and he says, Mark, he says, come to Golden Harvest. I go, okay. So I went to Golden Harvest and he was there. He goes, we're starting a new movie, Drunken Master 2 with Jackie. He's the director. And I goes, oh, you got a part for me then? He goes, yeah. He goes, but there's something else as well. I goes, what? He goes, he wants me to be the assistant fight coordinator for the movie.
Wow.
Because Hung Gar. So I was like, wow, okay. So he was the director. The fight director was Lau Kar Leung, which was his nephew, his sister's son. And then the assistant fight director was me. You know, and then I also had a part in the movie as the British Army officer, you know. And halfway through that movie, he took me to the side again and said, how long you been with me now? And I said, well, you know, I mean, 2-3 years. And he says, yeah, he says, you always call me Sifu, but you're not my student. So would you like to become my disciple? And again, I was like, oh, wait. I quickly ran off to get a red packet, come back with a little cup of tea, and got on my knees and the Sifu Yamta, and then give him the tea and the red packet. And then I became his student, or his disciple,
Right.
on Drunken Master 2 in Shanghai.
That's amazing. I mean, Drunken Master 2 is one of my all-time favorite martial arts movies. That's a masterpiece in my opinion.
Yeah. It was a very good movie. Unfortunately, there was a falling out between Jackie and my master at the end. So, you know, I mean, we filmed everything up to going just the beginning of the furnace section. We filmed the part with Vincent, the French black guy, who was fighting Jackie with the fan, and he had the chain.
Yeah.
So we finished filming that, and I supposed to fight with the Choi Lei Foot guy and the girl, and another 3 or 4 guys. So there's been 5 of them fighting me, while Jackie fights the rest of them, you know. But at that point, Jackie and my master had some words, and my master said, okay, he's leaving set. And because he brought me on set, my loyalty to him, and he's my hero, I left with him.
Of course.
And we came back to Hong Kong, and then Jackie moved everything back to Golden Harvest. He filmed the end fight with him with Lo Wei Gong, or Ken Lo, in Golden Harvest. So he did call me up, and he said, Mark, he said, we need you for the ending. And I said, I'm sorry, I can't do it. I said, if you want me, you got to call my master. And if he says yes, I'll come back. But I'm not coming back for the price that I was working for before.
Right.
No. So, of course, he wouldn't call my Sifu. So, at the end, you just see me standing outside the furnace works. And then I just disappear. No, so that was it. And Jackie got a bit upset about it. So when the actual film came out, on the credits, he put director Lau Kar Leung, action director Lau Kar Leung, assistant action director Jackie Stunt Group. He wouldn't put my name on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but you know, but some people have put uncredited Mark Houghton. No, so. But that I mean, it was kind of another dream, because I was the first Westerner to ever be a stunt coordinator, assistant stunt coordinator on a Hong Kong movie. But then at the end, because of the arguments, and I wouldn't come back and finish it, Jackie just refused to put my name on it. So it's just one of those things, you know?
Right. Did his relationship with Jackie ever get? Did they ever get on good terms again?
No.
Oh, okay. So that was it. That was it.
Yeah, because I mean, it was funny because we were choreographing one of the fight scenes for Jackie, and Lau Kar Leung was playing Jackie, and I was playing the other guy that Jackie was fighting. But my Sifu didn't like the choreography, so he decided to choreograph it himself, and he asked Jackie to copy, and his hands were so fast Jackie couldn't copy him. And some people in the background started laughing.
Wow.
And Jackie got a bit upset, and he was like, this style of kung fu is old style. I don't like this style. I want something modern. I want something new. I want a new look at it. I hate this old style. So that was the initial argument that started, and then at the end he kind of changed the slight style of his Drunken again, to what was at the beginning of the movies.
Right.
But I mean, that's life. That's the movie industry.
These things happen. I mean, personalities as well are big. So yeah.
I mean, his name sells. He's done so much great work on the film industry.
Yes, for sure.
He has the final say, and that's just one of those things.
Well, Lau Kar Leung is a legend in the movie industry, and I mean, arguably his that generation and that era of martial arts films, in my opinion at least, was the best period of martial arts films. I mean, nowadays I can't even bear to watch most of the stuff that comes out that is called martial arts films. They
I mean, he was just unbelievable. I've never seen anybody else choreograph like he's done. And even for me now, I mean, these modern Hong Kong movies, I don't even watch them.
Yeah.
Before, all the Hong Kong actors had a martial art background, and you could see the power in their fighting. But now all these modern actors coming out, they have a dance background or a singing background, and they might be able to perform the movement, but they lack the power, and you don't believe it when you see it. It's just something missing.
Yes, I agree. It's like they lack the presence as well.
Yeah.
So.
It's just not in their heart.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, my Steve always used to say, he said, when you're working in a movie, the first thing when you're looking at an actor is their looks. Do they have that lead star rolling look? And then, do they have the martial art ability? And if they have the martial arts, it might not be enough. Do they know how to react? That's the most important, is the reaction. It's not good enough to be able to kick good or punch good. If you can't react to being hit, or you can't sell someone else looking good, then you're in the wrong business. So a lot of world champions have tried to go into the movie industry, and they failed because when they fight for real, they always hide the fact that they're hurt, and they don't let people see that. And you can only see the power when they hit somebody, when somebody falls down or blood spurts out. You say, "Oh, that's really powerful punch," But in the movie industry, actually, we did hit for real quite a lot of times. But you can only control someone's body with a certain amount of power. It's best they control their own body. So their reaction is the most important thing. Their reaction sells your action, and if they can't react, your action is going to look bad. So he said that's the second most important thing. And then the third is beauty. Is facial expressions, because a facial expression can show power. So he said these is the three things he looks for when he looks for actors.
Very interesting.
And he says, and they really have to have a real martial art background. He doesn't want to stunt double anybody for fighting.
Right.
If they can't fight, work for him.
And you arguably were learning all of this as you were, being cast in movies. It's not as if you went through the background of having been a stuntman for many years. I mean, you were basically thrown into the deep end.
Yeah, I was thrown in the deep end. I mean, it's really funny because foreigners in Hong Kong were considered human props.
Yeah.
We didn't have much dialogue. We stand there and fight, and then we get beat. And then the Hong Kong films, they wanted more excitement, more action, so the stunts became more dangerous. And if you refused to do a stunt, then they wouldn't hire you for the next time. So, even if you were scared, you still had to do it. You just didn't let them know what you felt, and just hope that it went right. And the stuntmen would try to advise you as much as they could. And then in between films, I'd go and train with some of the stuntmen and learn basic falls and flips and things like that,
Right.
to improve my reactions in the fight scenes. But over the years, I mean, I broke my ankle, and I smashed my hips. I've had to have my knee replaced. I've had both hips replaced,
Oh.
you know, broken a few bones, But I mean, that's part of the industry. The Hong Kong industry is so dangerous. A lot of American films came over here, and the stuntmen refused to do what we did. They were like, no. But again, we couldn't get insurance in Hong Kong as well. We were so known for doing dangerous stunts that the insurance companies blacklisted all of us.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so if you got injured, the company would pay the first day in hospital, and then you had to pay yourself.
Oh my. That's no good. I recall in the movie in your I'm the White Tiger, the documentary, you state that you've acted in roughly 60 movies, 40 or so were credited, right?
Yeah. I mean, at that time, I mean, it was the end of the 80s, 90s. It was kind of the boom of the Hong Kong action cinema area. And we were shooting like 2 or 3 films at once. I'd be on this set from morning 6 o'clock to 6 o'clock in the evening. I'd finish that set and go on to another set from 7 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the morning, and then go back on the other set, And then 2 days later, I'd be on a third set, And
Wow.
you just kept working like this. You'd sleep on set. Whenever you weren't filming, you'd find a little corner and get a sleeping bag and go to sleep, I mean, we were working like that for like 2 or 3 years,
That's amazing.
It was unbelievable. Yeah.
Was it, I mean, can I ask you honestly, I mean, with regards to that era and the type of you being a foreigner, as you said, you're mostly like a human prop, you weren't going to get a main leading role, etc. For all the difficulties and the risk, was it, apart from the experience, was it financially worthwhile?
Financially it was okay. I mean, we were making 1,000 US per day,
All right.
At the end, it was going up to like 10,000 Hong Kong per day, So, I mean, as your name got out there and you're doing more movies and the people see you could do the job well, I mean, they were paying you quite well, So, it was a good living.
Okay, well, that's all right then. I mean, it was at least worthwhile. It wasn't as if they were taking complete advantage of you, so that's great to hear.
No. Well, I mean, some people were getting paid a few $100s a day, $500 to $1,000 a day. It depended. I mean, because of my seafood in the background, I was treated much better. And it's funny because we did one movie. I think it was called Pirates of the Southern Sea or Pirates of the China Sea, something like that, with Conan Lee in it.
Okay.
And Ken Lowe in it. And we went there and filmed for like 2 months. It was in China, just opposite Taiwan, the Straits there. And after the company told us they weren't gonna pay us until we'd finished filming, go back to Hong Kong and we get paid. So we was there for 2 months. They gave us a per diem, so we had pocket money to buy some things and things like that. And they gave us the hotel and food expenses. After we finished filming, there was three Westerners, me and 2 other Westerners on the set. And we came back to Hong Kong and we went to the office to get paid, and the office refused to pay us.
Oh, no.
And they said that they were paying us 1,000 US a day for that movie. I mean, we were there for 2 months,
Right.
So we got to the office and they kind of smiled and laughed and said, "We're not paying you." The company was a triad-backed company.
Oh.
So I said, okay, no problem. Let me make a call. And I made a call to my sifu, and then he made a call to someone, and they called back the company. And they put down the phone and just pulled out cash and paid me. And they said, And then the other two Westerners said, "Can you help us get paid?" I said, "I'm sorry, but the people that help me get paid don't know you. They won't do that for you.
Right.
You're gonna have to figure it out yourself." And they never got paid. No.
Well,
So I mean, some were abused, but because of my position and who I was with, I was treated very, very, very well.
well, that's good to hear. I mean, was there a large amount of Westerners doing this in Hong Kong when you were doing it?
In the 90s, there was about 10.
Oh, that's not
You
many.
know, oh yeah, there's mostly from America and one from Canada, uh, two from England, no, three from England. No,
Okay.
so one from Canada, so six from America. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any? I mean, you've worked with quite a few different well-known stars on these movies. You've from Sammo Hung to you mentioned Conan Lee as well, etc. Who are some of the more I mean, people that stand out in your mind? People that we only see on the silver screen. We don't really know them, so you know them better.
Yeah, I mean, well, really, I mean, the people I really do respect the most, of course, is my seafood.
Mm.
Frankie Chan Frankie.
Yeah.
He directs and he puts himself in. He likes all the kung fu movies, and he likes to use a lot of Westerners in his movies.
Yeah.
And he really likes people look to stand out and look good. Kofi, you know, uh, I did quite a few movies for him, and he really let people stand out. He actually let me choreograph my own fight scenes in his movies.
Okay.
Of course, Samo was another one. Skinny Tiger, Fatty Dragon. Samo plays Bruce, and then we redo the fight scene in the Coliseum. So I play Chuck Norris's part,
Yeah.
and it's funny because when we had the midnight screening of the movie, the premiere of the movie, Carl Makar, he said to me, "Mike, here's like 10 tickets. Call your friends because your fight's the best fight scene in the movie."
Hmm.
So I tell all my friends, "Oh, my fight's the best fight scene in the movie," and I give them the tickets and we go to see the premiere. And my fight scene is cut,
Oh, was it?
cut by half. And after we coming out the premiere, I saw Makar and says, "What happened?" He goes, "I don't know." He says, "I saw it in the editing room. The whole version is fantastic." He says, "But the film overran, and the editors had to cut it down, and they cut down the Westerner part."
Oh no.
So, but there is the whole version that's been released, unedited version. So it depends whether you're lucky enough to see that or not. Where I get to knock down Samo 2 times, and he gets to knock me down, and all this, or he kills me. So I mean, that was a real good fight scene. And at the end, it's funny because at the end he kicks me in the stomach, and I bend forward, and the camera's right in front of my face at a low angle, and his foot comes up between the camera and kicks me in the face. So he says to me, he says, "Mark, the camera's here and it's going to see if I don't hit you. So I've really got to kick you in the face. Is that okay?" And I couldn't really say no. So I said, "Yeah, okay, just go for it." He goes, "Well, put some cotton wool in your mouth and your jaw to like soften it." And he goes, "Well, and I'll put some foam in the instep of my shoe to make it a little bit soft." And I go, "Yeah, okay, so that's going to happen, but okay, fine." And so, the camera's ready, roll action. He kicks him in the stomach. I bend forward, and then my face is right in front of the camera, and then his foot comes up and kicks me straight in the face, and I flip back on my back, and then he jumps up and he lands on top of me, and then he claws me like Bruce does in the film, and then I die, and they shout "cut," and everybody's walking away, and I'm still lying on the floor there, and they look back and they go, "Matt, are you okay?" I goes, "I'm seeing stars. I can't see anything except stars and blurs." It took me 10 minutes before I could stand back up on my feet again.
Oh.
He really, really kicked me. No. But I mean, Samo is a great guy because after that, I'd been killed and my part was over. So I got changed and I came back and I said goodbye to everybody. And as I was walking out the door, Samo called me back. He goes, "Oh, tomorrow call time, 7 o'clock, be here. And I was like, but haven't I just died? He goes, yeah. He goes, but come here tomorrow at 7 o'clock, get changed, find a corner, go to sleep until we finish work, and then go home. And he says, and do that for the next 7 days. He says, I'm going to pay you for another 7 days. Because he kicked me for real. So Samo really knew how to look after the people that work for him.
Wow, that
was really amazing as well. So I really, really have a lot of respect for him.
Did you ever work with him after that on other movies?
Once he was directing the fights for Knockoff.
Oh, with Van Damme and Rodman.
Yeah. So they called me in. He called me in for that. He says, Mark, I got a small part for you. 3 or 4 days. He says, come and work for me. I goes, okay. So I did a little part in Knockoff.
Okay.
I played a Russian mobster called Bear. So
I'll have to rewatch the movie just to keep an eye out for you.
No, it's only a very small part in the beginning, and my own people kill me because I'm on drugs and I accidentally kill one of the guys that they kidnapped, and they got pissed off because I killed him, and then they kind of killed me. So,
Did you get to meet Van Damme while you were filming that?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I said Van Damme and Rodman, but that's double team.
Different movie.
Yeah. So Van Damme is alone.
Yeah, I met Van Damme twice because he was in Hong Kong filming Double Impact.
Oh, that's it. Yeah.
And remember the guy that was his uncle Frank, I think his name was. He was the sidekick to Clint Eastwood in a lot of the films.
Okay.
Remember that guy?
Yeah.
They wanted a stunt double for him. So they actually hired me to be a stunt double.
Wow.
So I stunt doubled him for a while in that movie. So I met Van Damme then. And then on Knockoff, I did a small fight scene with him. And that was it.
What's he like? I mean, did you get to know him at all?
Not really. I mean, we did that fight scene together. There is an incident in the nightclub that happened there with him.
Okay.
But I don't think it's good to share on air.
Okay, so you're not an actual situation, not in the movie nightclub, an actual nightclub outside of filming.
I mean, if you haven't got anything good to say about people, it's best not.
Yeah, okay, I can read between the lines. I get it. Okay.
Things happen.
Yeah.
But it was actually one of his stuntmen. He has a stuntman, Todd Senefoff or something, who looks just like him, but a little bit shorter. He caused some trouble in a nightclub, and then they all got scared. And it's funny because that nightclub, I was actually looking after that nightclub. And I put them in the back room, and the back room has no exit, and they really freaked out. They said, no, they've got to leave. I guess you can't leave because they're the people who don't like you are between you and the exit. So they just go in the back room, I'll deal with it. So they went in the back room and locked them in there, and then I dealt with the situation. And then once he'd finished, they left. And I don't want to go into too much detail.
All right.
But that's basically what happened. Yeah.
But working with him, as you were used to the pace and the method of working on action movies with other Hong Kong action actors, Van Damme is not from that environment. Was he able to keep up? Was it a different speed, tempo, method?
No, he had his own choreographer.
Okay.
So he would only do his own action. Samo would coordinate the Hong Kong stuntmen and other action.
Right.
But Van Damme had his own stuntman, action director to coordinate him, and he'd only do his splits and his punches and his kicks. I mean, to me, there was no timing in them. They were so slow. But that's what made him famous, and that's what he kept with. I mean, I don't think he could ever do Hong Kong style action.
Right.
No, but then again, he didn't need to. I mean, he was the first Westerner to do what he did,
Yeah.
um, and he made it from that, you know. So
Well, it's a different style of
you know,
movie, action movie as
yeah,
well. So yeah.
yeah.
What are some of the more memorable instances that you've had throughout your filming career that, whether they be positive or negative, if you want to share?
I mean, there's so many. Um, I mean, there's uh, one movie called Dragon Fighter,
Mm.
and it was a low budget movie, and I was a drug dealer in that, and they gave me a briefcase of fake coke,
Mm.
you know, and they saw me open it and that, and then the police come and raid us. So we're in this restaurant. This restaurant is 2 floors up, and I get out the side exit and jump off the balcony. And I'm holding the briefcase. Now, you'd think they would empty the briefcase because when you're running, nobody knows what's in it.
Mm.
But they didn't, and it was a weight. And they put crash mats on the floor. They put two sideways and then two on top of that. And they should have put a fifth one on top, which was covering the gaps between them.
Mm.
But they didn't. And when we did the action and I run and I just jumped off the balcony, my foot went between the gaps
Oh.
of the two crash mats. And my body, because of the weight of the briefcase, kept going. And my ankle snapped.
Oh, man.
And I wanted to go to hospital and they wouldn't let me. They goes, no, that shot wasn't that good. Because the actress that was supposed to be following me, she's supposed to pretend to jump over the balcony as well, but she's just stopped and looked. And the actress said to me, says, well, can you jump again? The words that come out of my mouth, I won't repeat them. But, yeah. But then I said, no, I can't jump again. So they said, okay. He says, well, we want you to run from here to the road. I said, how can I run? My foot's broken. It doesn't matter. Pretend it's broken when you hit the floor. Just hobble to the side of the road. So I had to hobble to the side of the road. The car pulls up. I roll over the bonnet of the car, open the door, pull the guy out, and then give him a side kick. Then I get in the car and drive off. And I work it so when I roll over on the car, I broke my left ankle, so I land on my right foot.
Okay.
And I spin around and I pull the guy out of the car and I say, look, I'm kicking with my left foot and my ankle's broke. So the camera's over there and we're really doubling it. So the camera, the angle cannot see if it's hit or not. Mm. So I said, I don't need to hit you. You can be like 1 or 2 feet back. No, the camera won't pick it up. So he says, okay. So they call action. I roll over the car, spin around, open the door, pull him out. And he's supposed to take 3 steps back. He takes 2 steps back. And then when I kick, he takes 1 step forward and I hit him. Mm. Oh, man, the tears that rolled down my face from it. It's a good job it was a long shot. You know? The camera couldn't pick it up. And I just threw myself in the car and drove off. And we finished and I just stopped in the car and I was screaming. And they come over and they says, what's I go? I'll go to the hospital. They go, no, it's okay. There's a bone setter just around the corner. We'll take you there. So they took me to this bone setter who told me it wasn't broke. Okay. It was just sprained. So he put some dar on it and he bandaged it. He told me to rest for 2 weeks. So I rested for 2 weeks. 3 weeks later, I was on another movie set and it was hurting like hell. And I just really bandaged it tight and carried on working. And I was fighting and jumping off things on that movie. And it wasn't until like 20 years later, I was teaching diving and I had to have my knee replaced. And one of my students is a top surgeon in Hong Kong, so he said he'll do it for me and I don't have to pay, do it on the government. He put me at the front of the list to do the surgery. And he was prepping me for the surgery and he looked at my ankle and goes, your ankle's deformed. I goes, yeah, it's 2 feet times the size of my other ankle. He goes, let me take an x-ray. He goes, when did you break it? I goes, well, I jumped off this building 20 years ago, but they told me it was badly sprained, not broken. He goes, no, you broke it. He said, so you've been working, running around and filming on it and fighting on it for the last 20 years on a broken ankle.
Wow. Was it like the bone was broken and not in the correct place, right?
Yeah, it set back it out of place.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
And then
Yeah, go ahead.
and then after 20 years, he did an operation on it for me, and he re-broke it and put it back in.
Oh,
But it's been out so long that it just slowly came back out again.
oh
So
really?
he said to me, so if I really want to fix, I've got to, now they have that ankle replacement. So if I want, and I says, well, I've already got a knee replacement, 2 hip replacements. I've been in the hospital too many times. I mean, if I can get away without doing it now, I'm nearly 60 now. So I said, let it go. You know, I'm okay.
Does it give you trouble?
Occasionally it's a bit stiff,
Right.
a little bit of pain. You know, I can still jog and walk on it and everything. So,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, of course, I'm not going to be doing stunts like I did before. So, you know, why bother? You know.
Yeah, if I could, you in your documentary, you mentioned a time when you went, I think, back to Malaysia to film something. And it was at that
Yeah.
time that you got quite savagely attacked. I mean, that's basically they try to kill you.
Yeah. I mean, we were working on a film in Malaysia. And after filming, we went to a nightclub. And I was drunk. And we walked into the nightclub, and this guy saw me, and he had like 20 people with him. And he come over and he said, I recognize you. You're from Hong Kong. I said, yeah. He goes, you're action fighter, huh? I said, yeah, thank you. He goes, so you can fight for real? And I knew what was coming.
Right.
And I said, no. I said, I'm just an actor. I said, I can't fight for real. And he slapped me in the face and started laughing. And we walked away. And that upset me. And I was getting drunk even more than I was. And on the way out, I saw him by himself. And I was like, where's your friends? I goes, oh, by the way, I can fight. And I slapped the shit out of him. The next day, we were filming in the hotel. And the newspapers come to do an interview, and they took photos of us at the front of the hotel and published it in the newspapers. So a few days later, we're in the hotel having breakfast before going to on set. And the table next to me, these guys sitting there, they go, oh, you're from Hong Kong. We see a lot of your movies. We're your fans. Can you sign your autograph? So I signed the autograph for them, you know. And they took some photos. And they said, oh, he says, we'd like to take you for dinner. I said, well, you know, as I'm going filming now, I won't be back till tonight. I goes, you know, you might not be here. They go, oh, well, if we see you come for dinner with us. I goes, well, if you're around by then, why not? So when I come back, they were still in the hotel. And they took me for dinner, and then took me drinking. And they made friends with me. And they did this for 7 nights. And on the 7th night, they said to me, it's their friend's birthday, and he's one of my fans. And for me to turn up at his birthday party would be a great birthday present. So I was like, yeah, okay, sure. So I went to the birthday party. And I don't know if the birthday party was real or it was a setup. It was a fake birthday party. But there's birthday cake and everything, and everybody's getting drunk. And I got drunk. And midnight, the DJ stopped the music and made an announcement that I was going to do a martial art demonstration, and I was from Hong Kong, and I was a movie actor. So I looked at everybody, and I goes, do a demonstration. I'm drunk. I can't even stand up. He goes, come on. So I got on the dance floor, and I did a little bit of drunken boxing. And I said, forget it. I'm too drunk. And I walked away. And they goes, okay, come on, keep drinking. And they gave me more drink. And then this little guy turned up, and he was only 5'4", 5'3", 5'4". It's really short. He had a really bad attitude. And he pointed to a table behind us, and there was 6 pint glasses on the table. And they'd been filled with whiskey, brandy, lager and Guinness stout. And he said to me, he says, he drinks 3, I drink 3.
Mm.
And if I refused, I thought, if I refused, something's going to happen. So I said, okay, cool, go on. But I didn't know what they were filled with. See? I thought they were just Guinness because they were black.
Mm.
So he picks up the 3 and he drinks them one after straight down. So I pick up the first one and I knock it down, straight down in one go. And I'm like, shit, what's in this? No. And then everybody's looking. So I picked up the other 2 and I drank them. And when I finished drinking the third one, the little guy disappeared. And I nearly collapsed. So I sat on this chair and I put my head on the table. And then I had to go to the bathroom. So I kind of got up and I stumbled to the bathroom. And I was in the bathroom. This stranger came in behind me. He says, leave. They're going to kill you. So he must have overheard them talking.
Right.
So I came out. And as I came out, I saw this guy walking towards me. He's a big guy. He had his hand in his jacket. So I put my hands on the back of a chair thinking, if he's got a knife, I'll hit him with the chair. And I looked back at him and looked back at the chair, and there was 2 guys sitting on the chair. So I couldn't lift it up off the ground. And then I saw a doorman walk past, one of the security walk past. So I grabbed him and said, I think that guy's got a knife. He said, what guy? I said, that guy. And I pointed and looked back, the doorman had gone. So he was in on it. And then as he started to get through the crowd, his jacket opened and I saw a gun. I didn't see a knife, it was a gun.
Ooh.
So I kind of like sobered up a little bit and I just rushed through all the crowd to the exit. And I didn't find out till later, but there was 50 people in there that was chasing me to the exit. And I managed to get to the exit. And as I got out the door, someone was getting out of a taxi. So I just jumped in a taxi and told the taxi to drive. And the taxi took off and 3 cars followed. But the big guy with the gun was so fat that he couldn't run so much. So all the guys that followed all had what they call is parang. Parang is a Malay jungle knife, a little bit like a machete type of thing. You know? So they all followed. So 3 cars followed the taxi, and the taxi stopped at the traffic lights when they turned red. So 1 car pulled in front, 1 behind and 1 at the side. And then they all just poured out the cars. And I looked up at the stars, and it was a really beautiful night. I remember seeing the stars and thinking, it's a nice night to die, because Malaysia also is hot and warm, you know. So you're not going to freeze your butt off as you bleed to death. So, you know, I pushed open the door and I jumped out. And, you know, I just thought, well, if I'm going to die, I'm going to take someone with me. And the first guy come to cut me, I moved and I used a tiger claw and I stuck my thumb in his eye and I pulled his eye out.
Ooh.
And his eye popped out. Somebody behind cut underneath my armpit and right up to my shoulder, so my arm was dangling off. The surgeon said if it had been cut another inch, I would have lost my arm completely. Then I was fighting with my right arm, and then they cut my right arm on the shoulder down to the armpit. And then they cut my back, and then I started kicking, and they cut my legs, my thigh straight to the bone in 2 places. And then I was kind of slumped forward, and from what I was told, that they were going to cut on my neck, they were trying to decapitate me. And as the parang came down, I kind of turned my head and looked towards it. So they hit me on the top of the head, and it went down my temple, down to the top of my jawbone. And then I just remember I just kicked someone. I kicked the guy that did that. And then as I looked, I could see a hotel across the side of the road. And I thought, if I can get into the lobby, there'll be too many witnesses. They won't follow. So I rushed over to the hotel, and you know, adrenaline was still pumping. Shock hadn't hit yet. And I pushed open the doors of the hotel. As I pushed open the doors, everybody in the hotel lobby just went silent, and the blood was just pouring from my body. And the shock was starting to come in now. And because I was in there, they wouldn't follow because of witnesses, so they all left. And I just looked at people and I said, excuse me, could you call me an ambulance? And then I said, sorry, I got to lie down. And I just collapsed on the floor. And they said that I rolled in pain and agony like 8 feet in length. And then the blood was the same width as my body length.
Oh, man.
So it was like a carpet of blood all on the lobby floor. And then they got me to hospital, and after the operation, I came to, and the doctors were standing there, and the ambulance driver was standing there. And the doctors just trying to say, I don't know how you survived, and he walked off. And then I looked at the ambulance driver, who was a Malay guy, and he said, I'm sorry, I just had to come and see if you're okay. He says, when we saw you, he said, we didn't know how to pick you up, because usually we go under your arms, but your arm was hanging off.
Ugh.
We had a real job picking you up. He says, and because it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, there was no traffic in KL. This happened in Kuala Lumpur.
Yeah.
He says, if it happened in traffic time, they would have never got me to the hospital or they'd have bled out. No. So he said, I was looking two things, that they managed to get me to the hospital in time and they could pick me up, which was a problem for them. He says he just wanted to come back to see if I survived. And I was like, oh, okay, thank you. So that was one.
Wow.
But I've had 3 attempts on my life.
Yeah, you said so. I recall that. Yeah.
So, but Malaysia is kind of like a cowboy town, a cowboy country, The government is corrupt. The police are corrupt. A lot of police work part-time as hitmen.
Oh, really?
In Malaysia. I know a few CID that they're DEA.
Yeah.
They do the drug bust and they take the drugs and go and sell them at night in the nightclubs.
Oh,
because they say their wages are enough. So Malaysia is one hectic country. But I mean, the thing is, the Malaysian people are such beautiful people. If they treat you as family, treat you as a friend, they will do anything and give you anything. But if they treat you as an enemy, that's how crazy they are. I mean, Malaysia, there's killings every night.
Right.
It's just a normal thing for them.
Yeah, I've been to Malaysia a couple of times, but only for short periods of time. I didn't really get to know the country as intimately as you did.
Yeah, I mean, I go back 3 or 4 times a year. I still got my adopted family there, a lot of friends there. Their mentality is completely different. But I love the place. I mean, I'm thinking of one day retiring there.
Where though? In Johor or in KL or?
No, I want to go on one of the islands.
Okay.
So I'm thinking of maybe Langkawi or Redang or Tioman.
Right.
Because I'm into scuba diving.
Yes.
So I want to go to, or maybe Sipadan, around that area, Kota Kinabalu, because I think, I could open up a small dive shop or dive resort to retire there,
Yeah.
So I want a nice location for nice diving.
And good weather all year round.
Good weather all year round, yeah.
So were all three of, you mentioned 3 attempts on your life, that one being in KL. Were they all in Malaysia or were in other places?
Yeah.
All 3?
The others, yeah, all in, and then the other 2 in Johor.
Yeah, okay. So the first one I recall you mentioned already in this discussion.
Yeah, but the first one was in Johor when I was 21 years old. I got stabbed in the femoral artery and then in the lungs and in the arm. And then the people that did it, they stole a car and rammed into the police and killed one police officer. So 2 people hung for that because Malaysia has a death penalty.
Yeah.
And then after that, I left and went back to the UK to start teaching.
Yeah.
So, and then the third one was also in Malaysia as well.
Would you say that your resilience and your body's ability to, endure and survive that, would you say it's connected to your martial arts training?
Yeah, I mean, I suffered a lot when I trained, and I gave up a lot, so my ability to withstand hardships is quite high, and my pain threshold is quite high. I think it's just, like you say, it's fate. It's just one of those things. I mean, to me, it was fated to all this to happen. And it was fun. And when I don't know whether people will believe this or not, and it's up to them. But when we were filming Drunken Master 2, I grew a small ponytail at the back, and it went down about 12 inches. And I braided it and put little balls, 2 or 3 little colored balls on the end of it. And we went to Changchun, near to the northern Korean border,
Yes.
to film. And that's where we filmed under the train, the scene under the train when my Sifu fights Jackie.
Yeah, that's a great scene.
And Changchun happens to be the is it the Winter Palace or the Summer Palace? But it's one of the palaces there. Can't remember which one.
Well, that's actually connected to the Manchu Empire. So yeah, it's one of their ancestral areas. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. And it was really funny because we went sightseeing one day and they took us to this really old temple. And we got to this temple and I didn't want to go in it. I really felt strange, as I'd been there before. Right. And my friends dragged me in and there was an old guy sitting in the corner. And he looked up and he spoke Mandarin. My Mandarin isn't that good. So my friend translated. He says, the guy said, you've come back. You've been here before? You told me you'd never been here before. I goes, I've never been here before. It's the first time. And he says to the guy, no, you're mistaken. It's his first time. He goes, no. It's been here before in another life.
Wow.
And he told us a story that I was the youngest prince. And the emperor liked me more than the oldest prince.
Okay.
And he had me assassinated in that temple.
Oh, man.
And he said to me, he says, you got all scars on your body, haven't you? I goes, yeah. He goes, well, every lifetime you've had scars on your body because you're a warrior. So you relive your fights from the past in these lifetimes. He says, so you had to have the scars on your body to come back here. So it was really weird, I mean, part of me didn't want to believe, part of me wanted to laugh, but another part of me, because I felt really strange and kind of scared going into that temple for something unknown. So, part of me did believe it. So again, I mean, if you're Buddhist, I'm a Buddhist, so I believe in reincarnation and past lives. It's a very strange story. And he says to me, I've always been a Chinese or Asian guy in all my past lives. This is the first time I've come back as a Westerner. Okay. But isn't it funny that you can't live in the West? You have to come back to Asia to live.
That's very interesting. Yeah, I mean, I was about to say that even though it's your first time, as you said, you've been reincarnated as a Western, you still found your way back to Asia.
Yeah. So sometimes I really think about this, and I just giggle and laugh to myself. And other times I'm meant to be in Asia. I'm just not meant to be in the West.
Well, you've been there long enough now that I think that you could say that that's home. There's no way to go back.
Well, it's funny because I do go back to the UK occasionally. Sometimes I go back to do seminars, or I go back to visit my mother who's still alive there.
Right.
But when I go back to the UK, it's either I visit my students who are opening martial arts schools there, or I'm in Chinatown.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I live in a big Chinatown, and I go back to the UK, and I just end up in Chinatown. It's so strange,
Well, I think, whether it's belief is a personal thing, and who knows what the reality is of what happens to us before and after. So, who knows all of that. But that's what you feel an affinity to. And I don't want to, it's something that's in my life too. My mom would say, even when I was 5 years old, I was just talking about China. And I've been infatuated with Chinese martial arts and Chinese things. And now I've been living in China for 11 years. But I've been, basically here since 2002 every year, and that's just, it's as if something, and I have a brother, so we grew up in the same house seeing the same things, but he had none of this, so who knows.
Yeah. Well, I mean, life is funny,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
exciting and unpredictable,
that's it.
so I've happened to be lucky enough, the exciting part.
Yeah,
Because, even in the excitement there's danger, but danger is also exciting.
right.
And in the times when that danger is there and you're fighting for your life, you really know that you're alive at that time. And when you know that you were so close to dying, you kind of respect life more and you hold on to it more.
Right.
So, I mean, even the negative experience I've had have turned out to be positive experiences.
For sure.
It's made me stronger. So I don't regret. If Peter said to me, if you could turn the clock back, would you make this not happen? I said, no. I'd make it happen again because that's who I am. It made me who I am, And if it didn't happen, then I'd be someone different. And that wouldn't be me.
Right.
So, I mean, I have no regrets.
Well, yeah, that's it. You mentioned that you're a Buddhist. If we could discuss that, was that something that gradually you've found an affinity and become, a Buddhist over the years of being in Hong Kong?
Well, no, actually, it's from Malaysia.
Ah, okay.
The Malaysians, they kind of mix Buddhism and Taoism together.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because in Taoism and Buddhism, they have the Guanyam, Goddess of Mercy, and
Guan Yin,
Buddha.
yeah.
They have these two as same, And so they have a connection with that. And it's funny because at that time when I was learning Kung Fu in Malaysia and I was 19, a friend was telling me about Mao San, Sanda, in the Taoist arts where they go into trances and perform Kung Fu and this and that. And they can go into trance of the Monkey King or General Guan. Guan Gong and
I've seen that in Southeast. I've seen that in Southeast Asia.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I heard this when I was 19 and I didn't believe it. So, of course, I had to see it with my own eyes to believe it. And again, it was one of those strange things that we walked into the temple and the master who was the master of the temple, he was in a trance and he was helping someone who'd been possessed by a ghost. So he was getting rid of this ghost, doing all this Mao San, Santa. And I stood right at the back and he didn't even turn his head, so he couldn't have seen me. And after he'd finished helping this person and they got rid of the ghost, he just started speaking, and then my friend nudged me and says, he's speaking to you. And I goes, what do you mean? He said he's been waiting for you for a long time. I goes, what waiting for me? I goes, I didn't even know I was coming to an hour ago. How could he be waiting for me? And he stood up and he goes, he's been waiting for me to come. And they pulled me in front of the altar and they took the Monkey King off the altar, statue of the Monkey King, and put it in my arms and told me to look in his eyes. And I was looking in his eyes. Next thing, I got hit in the back. And it was a really hard strike, which I thought was from a stick.
Yeah.
And I turned around, he was holding a sword. And he dropped the sword on the table, on the edge of the table, and the sword cut into the table. And I was expecting to see blood gushing out, but there was no cut. But there was a big red mark where he'd hit me with it. And then he said, the Monkey King protected you. He's been waiting for you. This is your path. So I actually became a student and I started learning Mao San and Santa at 19 years old. And I would go into a spiritual where I'd be possessed by the Monkey King.
Right.
I have pictures of me walking on fire and putting spikes through my cheeks and things like that.
Right.
And so I started doing this Mao San Santa Taoist arts. And then this master was very famous for catching ghosts, so I'd go with him as his assistant to catch ghosts and exorcisms and things like that.
Wow.
And then as my knowledge and my belief in Taoism started getting stronger, then I started to visit all temples and Buddhist temples and everything. So in my house I have a Taoism altar, so I have Guanyam, I have Monkey King,
Mm.
I have Guan Gong, and I have one of the gods from hell,
Okay.
black-faced god from hell there. And then I have the ground god. And then on the outside of my house, by the front door, I have a Thai Buddhist altar, because I also have a lot of Thai Buddhist amulets.
I've seen those in the
Yeah,
documentary that you wear.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's funny because when I first got stabbed when I was 21 years old, I was carrying a lot of the Fu, which is amulets written from Taoism on yellow cloth.
Yeah, I know those. Yeah.
And and when I got stabbed and I hit in the femoral artery, and it was just squirting out, and I took that amulet and placed it over the wound, and the blood stopped.
Okay.
And it was the main artery.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't stop, but it slowed down considerably, which allowed me to get to hospital. So that helped on that. And then other times when I've been attacked, I've always been wearing these Thai amulets, and each one has a different meaning and things. And I've always survived because of these amulets, and that's what I believe.
Right. Well, yeah, we all need our beliefs. I mean, that's life
Yeah.
is all about finding your beliefs and your meaning, for sure.
But I mean, when I was young, everything was, physical. What I didn't believe, I had to experience
Yeah,
firsthand.
of course.
Not, it was reverse racism to a point. I mean, because I was the only white guy around, I did encounter racism being white, and I always had to prove, because everybody kind of looked down on you or tried to abuse you, and I never wanted to show people I was better than them, because I didn't want to seem to be this white supremacist or
Yeah.
whatever. I wanted to show people that I was just as good as them. I wasn't below them and I wasn't above them. I was the same as them. So every time, I would try to prove this and prove that, and I would stand by people. People got into trouble, and I'd stand there and I'd fight with them. And I wanted to, all the time, I wanted to test my kung fu. So I always put myself on the front line of any altercation
Yeah.
I could get into, which would help someone. I wouldn't get into trouble just for the sake of getting into trouble. I got into trouble because I was helping someone who was in trouble
I see.
and trying to protect them.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of street fights in Malaysia when I was young. I've seen so many people die, and also in the scuba diving industry, I went into the public safety diving,
Yeah.
which is body recovery. So underwater body bagging.
Yeah.
So you're bringing corpses back to the surface and everything. So I've seen a lot of death in my time.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, made me, I don't know, made me fear myself. Because I'm not scared of death. I've nearly died 3 times, and the point where you think you're going to die becomes so peaceful.
Right. So you're not actually scared of that, and you know what that process
Yeah,
is. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, 3 times when I thought I was going to die, I kind of became really peaceful and came to the point where I was going to accept that and just relax and let it happen. Then suddenly something kicked in, and I said, no, I got to fight. I got to survive. And then I fought against it. But, that feeling is so relaxed and so warm
Right.
and that, so, I'm not scared of death, I mean, it's going to happen to us any time. I mean, we're all going to die. It's just a matter of when and where,
Right.
how, unfortunately, we don't want to die painfully,
Yeah.
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 Horribly. But I mean, how you die, you die. Like you say, it's all fate. And all these things have happened to me. I've not been fated to die. I say heaven didn't want me, hell didn't want me. I'm still here.
I remember you said that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's nowhere for me to go.
Yeah.
I mean, with all these experiences, I'm not the person to run away under danger, even if it means I'm going to die. I won't run. I'll face it. But I don't want that to happen unless it's a necessity in my life. I mean, if it's to protect my family or my friends, then then okay, I'm willing to sacrifice my life. But for something unnecessary and stupid, then of course, you've got to be an idiot to do that.
Yeah, I understand.
So I mean, I've learned a lot of harsh things in life, and I've took the negative and turned it into positive.
Yeah. The one thing that stood out for me in your documentary was the touching story of you and your Sifu Lau Kar Leung's relationship, and how special that was. I mean, the time together, but also how special it was for you. What was he like as a teacher? What was he like as a master? What was that like?
Well, I mean, when he's teaching, it's just like he is on the films. No, that strict teacher is very serious, and he wants perfection from you.
Right.
He really pushes you to your limit, and he teaches everybody individually. He doesn't teach people the same. He sees people, and he sees what your body can do and what its natural reaction and movements are, and he adapts your kung fu to your body reaction and movement. And he said to me, he says, when you're learning kung fu, when you've learned it, it's my kung fu. But once you've learned it, you've got to understand your body structure, your body's reaction and limitations. And you've got to change the kung fu to suit your body. Once you've done that, the kung fu is no longer mine, it's yours.
Right.
No? Because if you can do that, then your kung fu is yours forever. But if you can't, you're just borrowing it from me until one day you forget it or can't do it physically anymore.
Okay.
He says, you'll never be able to do movements I can because our body structure is different.
Right.
No. So you have to learn how to adapt it for your own body structure, your own individual ability. But when he's not teaching, he so likes to joke and laugh. His nickname for me is Silly Boy. They always call me Sawzai, and then he always likes to slap me on the shoulders and everything, and it's just like, remember the film 18 Legendary Weapons?
Yeah.
Where he's hiding, but he kind of shows off his kung fu carrying logs and things like that. I mean, when he's not teaching, he's always talking about kung fu, and his hands are always moving, and he's always trying to do something. He's kind of not showing off, but it's part of his life. It's part of him. So even when he's not teaching, he's performing some type of martial art movement. Even when he's touching you or slapping you or he's explaining something, his hands are moving like something in a form. And he just doesn't stop. It's just 24 hours like that. And I remember 2013, it was March, it was my birthday. So he called me up and he said, come to his clubhouse and he'd buy me lunch and he'd buy me noodles, because in Chinese, on your birthday, they like to eat noodles because it represents
long life.
So, and he was in a real bad condition then. I mean, March 2013, he died in June 2013, so he lived another 3 months after that. And I saw him and he said to me, he says, Mike, he says, I'm in so much pain. He says, if I die tomorrow, I'll be so happy. And I said, no, Sifu, don't say that. You're going to live for a long, long time. He goes, no. He says, it's coming, don't worry. I've accepted it. And I said, no, I don't want to hear it. I said, you're going to live for a long time. He says, I don't even want to live. He says, I've lost everything. He says, look how skinny I am. He says, my kung fu's gone. I've got no power. And he's saying that he slapped me on the shoulder and I fell off the seat. And I was sitting on the floor looking up at him. And I said, Sifu, you just told me you got no power. And he just starts smiling. And then he made me promise 2 things, because I'd stopped teaching and I'd stopped movies because of the injuries I'd got. And I got so depressed because I couldn't do what I used to be able to do. And he said, look, he says, you got to come back. He says, you got to train back your skill. He says, I know it's hard, know it's difficult, but you got to promise me you'll train back your skills and you'll teach and you'll keep teaching and you'll go back to the movie industry, either as an actor or a producer, stunt choreographer, but you'll go back to the industry.
Yeah.
So I promised them two things. And then I was busy up until the last week in June, and it was on the 25th at night that a friend called me and said, your seafood passed. They heard it on the news, so I called his wife, and I couldn't believe it. I was in tears.
Yeah.
It was so painful, And then she asked me if I'd want to help with the funeral arrangements and that. So I helped with the funeral, and after the funeral, they didn't cremate him straight away. They put his body in storage for two or 3 months because they were waiting for the right day in the Buddhist calendar to cremate him. And she was lucky because of all the films he'd done about Chinese martial art, Hung Gar and Shaolin Kung Fu, that she got permission to cremate him at the Chinese Buddhist temple in Lama Island, where they have the statue of the big Buddha, because they have a monastery there. So this the cremation there is old style. It's just a big furnace, and you put logs in there. You put the coffin in and set light to it and close the doors. And it takes like 3 days for it to burn completely to ashes. And when we took the body there and we put in, his wife, my CMO, she said to me, Mark, stay with me. We're going to watch it burn. So she banned everybody else from going in. We locked the compound off. And the monks set fire to the coffin, and they didn't close the doors to the furnace. And we sat in front, kneeled in front of the furnace, watching the coffin burn and break away, and then you could see the body. And then the flesh started to burn, and you could see the yellow fat underneath the skin. And it was, I mean, I've seen a lot of people die. It's not affected me, but this was so painful to watch.
Of course.
Both of us were in tears and crying, and then in the middle of his body burning, I got up and performed some Hung Gar for him and told him I will keep the promises I made. And after 3 days, then we went through all the ashes, and I picked out the bones that didn't completely burn, and we filled 2 urns with his bones that hadn't completely burned. And then we took the ashes and put it in a plastic bag. And these ashes were parts of his body, they were parts of the logs, parts of the coffin. And then we buried them under the tree. It's funny because the tree was dying. We dug a big hole at the base of the tree and put all the ash in there and covered it up. And a year later, the tree is back to life. Got its life back. And then I carried the urns to Sha Tin. We have Po Fok San, which is a burial temple, and we put the urns to rest there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was the most painful experience I've ever experienced, but it was one that I was happy to be on because I was able to be on his final journey to the end. I saw it to the end of his time and life, which will always be with me. And it's something that I will never forget.
Of course.
And even though it was painful and hard, it was something that I do cherish. And I'm honored to be part of, to watch that happen.
Yeah.
So, even with passing, I still feel so close to him.
Yeah, I think they're always around. They're always around when... Yeah. So but, you moved on and maintained your promises?
Yeah, I mean, I made that document. I mean, it's very difficult because, I was thinking, okay, I start training again. My ability wasn't as good as it was, but as a teacher, I can teach. If I put down the sword and pick up the staff, I can still teach. I can use my experience to teach. And I just had my third hip replacement because I had a hip infection.
Oh.
So they had to replace it, total hip replacement. And I was in hospital for 3 months because I had a blood infection.
Oh man.
They had to take out the hip joint, and I had to sit in hospital for 3 months with no hip joint until the infection had cleared up. They could put in the total hip replacement. And now I bought a mountain bike, and I'm biking 2 hours a day, building up the strength in my legs. I'm working on the flexibility of my hips. I'm just getting my stances back to, they're not 100% to where they was, but they're kind of like 75%,
Okay.
80, near to 80%. I say 78, 79%. But that's in the look. It's not in the strength. No. And so, I'm thinking, well, I'm not going to be fighting. I'm not going to be performing. So long as I can just do the stance to teach it, I'm happy.
Right.
So now I'm training more Iron Fist. So I can teach the movements. I can teach the stances. But if I really need to fight, I can still break a head or two. So I'm using the Iron Fist as a kind of a backup.
Yeah.
If I really need to go that far again, but I'm hoping at my age now that all that's in the past,
Yeah.
And then with the film industry, I was thinking, I've been out of the industry for 15 years. Technology has changed. We were shooting on film, 35 millimeter, and film costs money. Now everybody's using SD cards, high definition, computer generated film. Now graphic, everything has changed, everything is new, and there's a lot of things I don't know about what's happening now. And if I ask someone now, would you invest in a movie for me? Nobody would invest in me.
Oh.
So I thought, how could I come back into the industry? So I thought, well, if I do a documentaries, they don't make money.
Yeah.
But they don't lose money. You get what you put in, and you can make a tiny bit on top of that. But you're not going to become a millionaire with a documentary.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, let's start with a documentary. And what am I going to work on as a documentary? And I thought, well, what about my life? It's been an unusual life.
For sure, it's
like
been
a movie.
unusual. Yeah.
So why don't I share that? So I shared some of my experiences, some things that I kind of kept away from. So, I shared 70% of my life.
Yeah.
And then, I was lucky.
Are you planning on a follow-up for the other 30% someday?
Maybe as a book version when
okay,
I'm dead.
good.
I'll have my thoughts, release it when I'm dead. Too many things in there shouldn't be said. But anyway, I was lucky because this documentary won 33 awards worldwide.
Yeah.
We got distributors for it. Unfortunately, because of this COVID that came in, it's only been distributed online in the US and the UK.
Yeah.
On Amazon and Apple, iTunes. It's supposed to have gone worldwide, but because the film festivals got cut down, so it's only been in these two markets. But now in July, it's being re-released worldwide at the Cannes Film Festival.
Okay.
So, they send me a check every 3 months, a little bit here, a little bit there. It just trickles in.
Okay.
But I've signed a contract for 10 years with the distribution company. So I'm going to get paid trickling bits of money coming in for the next 10 years from that documentary.
Yeah, well, that's
so
good.
it pays, covers bills, But, at the same time, it's let people know who I am and what I can do. And I have 1 or 2 scripts that I wrote myself. One is about a female bounty hunter in Malaysia,
Okay, interesting.
which I want my daughter to be the female bounty hunter.
Right.
That's for about 5 million renminbi.
Okay.
No, so it's a low budget movie. But we've done our background checks and everything, and for low budget 5 million, under a million US, you could pick up between 3 to 6 million from it, from sales.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the raid. The raid was 1.2 million or something like that US, and look what that did.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. So I have the confidence that I can choreograph the action. I have a partner who works for George Lucas. He works at Skywalker Ranch in the US in San Francisco. So he's going to be the director. I'm going to be the action director and producer.
Very
So
interesting.
I'm open to my own film company. So, I want to film in Malaysia now, but because of COVID now, Malaysia's closed all its borders.
Yeah.
And we've got to wait now until this COVID is sorted. So I'm hoping that sometime next year, my investors will come out with investment for me to do this movie. I have another script that we wrote called China Heist
Yeah.
that I'm planning to do in China, mainland China. And we budgeted that for 1.5 million US. And that script we put into a script contest in China. And there was 600 scripts entered in the contest. We came 11th.
Oh, wow.
And they financed the winner of the competition that came first. So, I mean, I have 1 or 2 good scripts. And I also have the last script my Sifu ever wrote
Oh, that's special.
about the burning of Shaolin Temple and the development of Hung Gar.
Right.
So, but I mean, some people have contacted me about that, but I don't want to. They wanted to buy it off me, and I won't sell it to them. I said, look, I promise I would do that myself, but I want to do 3 or 4 low budget movies first to get back into the industry, to get my experience back up, get the rust off, to get up to pace with the new technology that's happening, and to find a good crew that I can believe that would work on this to the standard that my Sifu want to do, because I don't want to make his movie and make it fail and then have that people laughing and saying, this guy's supposed to be a great director and kung fu master, and this movie sucks. I can't destroy his name, his reputation, his legacy.
Yeah.
So no, it's going to take time. I mean, even if I'm 70 years old, I'm just waiting for the right time and for me to get back on the ball. So I mean, with this COVID now, it's put me behind for 2 years. But I'm hoping within the next 5 to 6 years.
Yeah. Well, that sounds good.
I can get started on his last movie.
Well, I mean, I think you're at least being pragmatic about how you want to get back into this, and I think if it COVID aside, if things open up, I think that your plan is a good one, and I'm looking forward to all of it.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I have a few people interested in investing.
Yeah.
And my partner, actually, the movie, the script my Sifu wrote, we were actually talking about it long before he died. He had it written before then. And we had some people in the States that were willing to come out with we were looking at a 10 million US budget.
Okay.
Which is still a small budget compared to the States.
Right.
But for Hong Kong at that time, it's okay, it's enough. But even now in China, the budgets are so big now.
Yeah.
Investments are so big. So unfortunately, when my Sifu got sick, then the deal fell through. But there's still people in the States that are willing to invest in this script. But like I say, I don't want to rush it. I don't want to fail. I can't fail. So I need to do these low budget movies of my own first to gain more experience and to get back on the ball of what movie making is about. And plus all the new technology into the film industry.
Yeah.
But I mean, I want to keep it the same as is, where I don't want special effects. I mean, if we're doing location special effects is one thing, but I don't want special effects on fighting, on action. I want all the fighting to be real. I want the people that be in the movie to actually know martial arts,
Yeah.
So, I mean, I want to keep the fighting side true to his style as I possibly can.
Yeah, that would be great. And that's I mean, like I said, I have a really hard time watching the more modern martial arts films, and the memories of his era and his films are the best memories in my mind. I mean, they're part of the inspiration for me and you yourself of following our destinies into practicing martial arts. So I hope so.
Yeah, I mean, even now when I'm doing these modern type of fight scenes, I understand that I have to put in some of the modern style, a little bit like Jackie, a little bit like MMA, but I also want to keep in the hardcore traditional Chinese style movements in as well. So I'm kind of mixing them up to make a new hybrid style. I know that I can't 100% go into traditional Chinese martial arts, especially if it's a modern timepiece, because it's not going to be believed,
Yeah.
But if I throw things in occasionally at the right place, the right time, and make it stand out, I mean, then, I can do that. And then, of course, with the time period piece back to the Shaolin Temple burning, and of course I can put in the traditional martial arts there. But it's just finding a balance. And my daughter's done well. I mean, she studied all the traditional from me. Her forms are very, very good. The traditional forms are very good. The movement is very good.
I've seen.
And she also went into MMA, Thai boxing, because she came to me one day and she says, I'm going into the movie industry, but I'm so worried that people are going to say, oh yeah, she looks good on screen, but can't fight for real. And I really want to find out whether I can fight for real. So she put herself into these MMA contests. She went in to do some BJJ herself, jiu-jitsu herself. So she went and found different instructors to train under to develop her own style. And she did two, I mean, I won't say they were major championships, but they were for TV, where they got in a lot of actresses come in and study martial arts, BJJ, and they put them into a competition called the Fight Club, and it was for VTV, and she did Fight 1 and Fight 2. Fight 1, I mean, she lost the championship, but everybody that saw the fight said she won. But the girl that won, she was the promotion and poster girl for the people that done the promotion of the fight. So, they met, and my daughter knocked her down a few times, and broke her nose. But my daughter's got a bruised face as well. But but for the actual fight, everybody that saw it said she won, but they give the points to her, the other girl. Things happen. But then on the second one, she had 3 or 4 fights in that. But the last fight she had for the championship, she's 53 kg. The girl she fought was 72.
Oh, it's a big difference.
Big difference. And she beat her to win the championship.
Oh, wow.
And now she signed a 5-year contract for Shaw Brothers and TVB in Hong Kong. And she's just finished a TV episode called Flying Tigers Part 3, where she's the main bad girl in the TV series.
Yeah. I saw some stuff that she's released recently as well, because she's got a YouTube channel, and I'll put the links to her YouTube channel in the show notes too, so people can go see. But I like the stuff she's doing.
Yeah, and then because of the Olympics coming up, TVB are covering the Olympics, so now they're having her doing Western boxing.
Oh, okay.
To fight, to promote the Olympics.
Right.
So she'll be doing a couple more fights for Western boxing.
That's
I mean, she's covering a lot of bases and that. So but she's proven to people she can fight.
Yeah.
And I said to her, going into the movie industry, you're going to make more money. She goes, yeah, but I want people to know that I can fight for real if needed.
Yeah, well, that's great.
I'm not just an actor.
Yeah, that's a great attitude. That's a great attitude. And I mean, all of this is just experience towards whatever she decides to go into. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's very good.
She's got my DNA when it comes to martial arts or fighting.
Yeah,
She's just natural.
yeah,
So I'm quite. I never pushed her. She just took it herself.
yeah,
So I'm quite happy about that. I'm quite proud of what she's achieved.
yeah.
I think that in the movie industry, she's going to be a big name
Okay.
because there's no one in Hong Kong now to fill the shoes of Michelle Khan,
Yeah,
or anybody else who's like Wei Ying Hong, Lei Choi Fong, Yum Pam Pam.
yeah,
All these were famous Hong Kong fighting actresses. There's no one here now. So I think that there's a hole in the market that she could fill.
yeah.
So I think she's going to make a name for herself in the future.
Well, I'm looking forward to that too. So I hope that she, all of that blossoms into what you guys are hoping and dreaming of. You're also teaching
Yeah.
as well. I mean, you're teaching martial arts as well as trying to pursue your movie career. And how's that been getting back in? And you say you go also to your students in England. What's that been like?
Yeah, I've been to the UK, did a few seminars there. I've been to LA,
Yeah,
did some seminars there. France. No, so I was traveling a lot before the
yeah,
COVID hit. And my daughter was traveling with me. So things that I felt that I couldn't perform or demonstrate that I've heard demonstrate. So we work good as a team together. You know.
very good.
But yeah, it's good. People are still waiting for this. A lot of people still want to book me to go to do seminars.
Right.
Or even, I went to Vegas to get a lifetime awards for the movie industry.
Wow.
So I got an award for what I did in Hong
Congratulations.
Kong.
Yeah.
No, it was amazing. I got an award for what I did in the Hong Kong movie industry in an American film festival.
Yeah, well, that's amazing.
So to be recognized by them for things I did in Hong Kong, it was really amazing.
Yeah.
That was good. And I've been offered another award in America, but unfortunately I can't travel.
Yeah.
So I said I don't really want to accept an award that I'm not going to be there for. So thank you for the invitation,
Yeah.
but pass on it this time.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's all very promising what you've got planned for the future. I mean, it's been interesting to hear just a small snippet of your background and your history. It's very interesting because you're one of the few, as you've said, in today's day and age, but in your day and age it was different. You come from a martial arts, a Chinese martial arts background that you trained deeply and then got into the movies with that, and that's just one other avenue for the world to see and be inspired to get into practicing Chinese martial arts. So
Yeah, well, Chinese, well, any martial art, Chinese martial art, Japanese, Korean,
yeah,
Thai, and there's so many different reasons why people learn martial arts. The first reason is the fancy reason is, like we see on the silver screen, we can learn martial arts and beat up all these people. And we think that martial arts is about fighting and that's it. But as you learn martial arts, you learn it's not just about fighting ability. It's a culture, it's a way of life. It teaches you more than to fight, And as you get more into it, then there's more ways you can take from it. You can go from health-wise, culture, learning a different culture, and then teaching this culture and teaching other people to be healthy, And you can go into the fighting aspect where you're doing competition, You can go into the bodyguard world, And then, of course, also you can taste and go into the movie industry. Thing is, like my Siva said, why did he go into the movie industry, and do what he did? He could have gone into teaching. He did teach, but he taught on a very small scale. Instead of opening up like that. But he said to me, he says, opening a martial arts school, how many people can I influence? Especially in the past, there was no internet.
yeah,
Now internet, you can influence people around the world with it, but it's the same as movie. In the movie, with all his films he's made, how many millions of people around the world has he influenced to do Chinese martial art or a martial art?
Yeah, exactly. Very true.
No, and that's the thing. So people turn around and say, "Oh, Chinese martial arts can't fight." I mean, now I would agree. 80% of that is the truth. Chinese martial arts can't fight. It's not that they can't. It's that they've taken a different path. People have gone into Chinese martial arts. They've gone into Chinese culture. They've gone into health. And teaching children. And when you teach children, you can't teach children to be hooligans. You can't teach them to fight. You got to teach them to be good. So the fighting aspect is put to the back, and more on performance and health and culture is pushed forward. Chinese martial arts, it takes time, and you have to have something that you're naturally born with. And in Chinese in Cantonese we say Yat Damme, Yi Lek Sam Kung Fu. Damme, you can say it's hard or brave, being brave. I mean, some people can talk kung fu and they can demonstrate kung fu, but when it comes to fighting, they get so scared they can't move, they can't fight. All their martial knowledge just freezes and goes out the window. And these type of people, they can be great performers, and they can pass on the art from generation to generation and become great teachers, but they'll never be fighters. But that doesn't mean they're bad.
Okay, yeah.
And that doesn't mean that the martial art is no good.
Yes, agree.
It's just that they're just pursuing it in a different way. And to make Chinese martial art become gives it the ability to actually use it in real combat, you have to go back to the basics.
Right.
You have to go back to body conditioning, and you have to condition your body. And if you look at MMA people, they take the first one. They're not scared of getting hit. They're not scared of losing. They're not scared of bleeding. They're not scared of fighting. So they got the first one. They got the Damme. And then they develop the power. So that Damme, Yilek. The second one, the most important is you have the power. So they develop the body conditioning. So they're hitting the bags. They're being hit. They're taking that pain threshold, and they keep going. They're developing the power for their punches and their kicks and their ground fighting. So they got Yatam Gile. But there's no kung fu forms. There's no forms whatsoever. They're just taking the basic movements. And they're developing the fight. So they're becoming a fighting martial art. So what we say, Yatam Gile, some kung fu. So the first one, you have to have the brave heart. You can't be scared. Second, you have to have the power. And then the third is the kung fu knowledge. You don't need the kung fu knowledge to be a fighter. If you got them two, you can fight. And you can learn Chinese martial art, Japanese martial art, BJJ, MMA. You will fight and you will win because you have them too. But there's millions of people doing MMA now in the world, but not all of them can fight because they haven't got the first two.
Right.
But they can do the techniques of the MMA. They can do the ground fighting. They can do the BJJ. But they're not willing to get hurt or suffer to become a real fighter. So, there's fighters in all martial arts. It's not whether this martial art is the best martial art in the world. It's whether the person that's performing that martial art is actually an instinctive fighter from his birth.
We too often see people trying to judge the art based on individuals, but and in today's day and age, it's so easy to just simply say, oh, Chinese martial arts, oh, that stuff is all useless. No, it's not useless. Times have changed and people have changed. You need to look at things realistically and understand that the art has survived for such a long time, not because it's useless. Obviously, it's useful if it survived this long. Obviously, it does what it's intended to do. But if it's the person is at fault that's applying it, that's part of the problem. Or B, he's applying.
Well,
Go ahead.
It's basically the law, if you go out and fight, you're going to prison. You're going to get charged with assault. You're going to prison. So the people's mentality has changed.
Society.
They don't need to go out and fight. Society has changed, so they don't need to use martial arts to fight. And if they're going to fight, they're going to pick up a gun or a knife. especially in America, like it's so easy to get a gun, or in Thailand or something like that. You can pick up a gun so easily. Why waste your time trying to fight and just pull that trigger? You know. So I mean, the reasons for the martial arts have changed. The society has changed so much. So but the history and the culture of the martial arts will keep living,
Yes.
and people will keep passing it down. So I hope that people, when they see Chinese martial arts, that they look past that. Oh, this guy can't fight. Maybe this guy can't fight. No, but it doesn't mean the art itself is useless. And what is the guy doing? He's promoting a culture. He's teaching people health, fitness. He's teaching 武德,
Yeah.
where he's teaching
Ethics.
about loyalty and ethics. So there is something that he's passing on that is good for the younger generation to learn. It's not useless.
Yeah, and
but it depends on what.
I also think.
But it depends on what you want from the martial
For
arts.
sure. I also think people also need to know that, martial arts can also give your life some sort of purpose and meaning in itself. So that's a very valuable thing today. A lot of people have, they're living, they've got, I don't know, they make money, etc., but they haven't found something that gives them that passionate drive to live and get up every day. And martial arts, but it has to be, and for me, this is my opinion and my experience, traditional martial arts, which includes culture, which includes the relationship value between your teacher, which is special, with your brothers, your martial arts brothers, all that experience, the health benefits of the regular training, and then of course the martial arts skills when you're training correctly. Those give life such a grand meaning. It's really important.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I laugh when people start talking about, oh, can you fight? Can you go into the UFC or fight in the cage and all this? I mean, the thing is, all martial arts now have become a sport. Even when you're teaching the culture and the art of it, it's still classed as a sport, especially in China, because you've got the Wushu Federation. Yeah. So all martial arts are considered sport. MMA is sport. Everything is sport. And even these world champions, if someone who's a cold stone killer, a murderer, he wants to kill you, it doesn't matter if you're the world champion in a cage or whatever. If a killer wants to kill you, it won't be difficult for him to do.
Yeah.
Being a champion might give you a chance of surviving, but that's it. If you're lucky, you'll survive an attack.
Yeah. Yeah.
But because you're a champion, it doesn't mean you're going to go and beat everybody in the world, especially people that want to kill.
Right.
Because when people kill us, they won't let you know they're going to kill you. They'll walk up behind, stab you, shoot you, and run. Disappear. Then nobody's going to stand in front of you and say, "Oh, you're a world champion. Let me fight you. I'm going to kill you." It's a different type of mentality. So these people are saying, "Oh, Chinese martial arts can't fight." Or in China now, all the Chinese martial arts are losing to this Chinese guy does MMA. It's a sport, and those guys are teachers who have never fought in their lives.
Yeah.
But they've had the guts to stand up and try. They might have misled themselves in all these years, thinking that they could fight, and they've lost touch with reality. But they've got up there and tried.
Yeah. And
getting up there and trying is a big part of being a fighter.
Yeah, well, it's the first step.
It's the first step, And plus, they're in their 60s and this and that, Nobody in the younger years have taken up this challenge, I mean, and for an MMA fighter in his 30s to challenge a 60-year-old man is stupid in the first place.
Well, that to me is the great tragedy of all of that is, I mean...
Yeah, I mean, fitness level, strength level,
Yeah.
The 60-year-old is never going to match it. He's only going to match experience, but, when it comes to fighting, within the next 30 seconds, if you have no energy, you've got no stamina, you've lost your fight, no power, you're going to get battered. No, and if you've never been punched in the face before, it's a shock.
Yeah.
No, so I mean, but it doesn't mean Chinese martial arts are useless.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and I hope that no, I mean, I respect these MMA people. They get what they deserve. They really work hard and they suffer. They bleed for their art. But I hope that some of them can look past the point of this guy can't fight, but what does he have to offer? What is he giving the next generation? It's just a different road, different path they're taking. They're not fighters. They never will be fighters. Not all martial artists will be fighters.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
Look at all the people in the world that have done boxing, but not all of them can become professional fighters. And not even, and 50% of them can't even win in a fight in the street, but they've boxed sometime in their lives. So, martial arts and fighting are two different things.
Yeah, well, I agree. I agree with for sure it's very much also has to do, the martial art is like a liquid, and if you put it in a vessel that is suitable to that liquid, it's going to be a complete package. But if you take it into a vessel, which is the person that it's not suitable for, then that liquid is wasted, and that is the case with a lot of martial arts in terms of the combat side. Not everybody's gonna take it and use it for that, and or even desire that. So that's
but for me, I don't think there's any shame in not being a fighter.
Yeah.
But I think that's the problem with what's happening is people's egos. They don't want to admit that they've never fought in their lives, or they'd be scared to fight.
Yeah.
So they put this fake placenta on, and they talk like they can fight, and I'm gonna. And what I hate most is people in the martial arts teaching their students how to defend against a knife when they've never had a street fight in their life.
And you know all about that side of things. I mean, the reality.
I mean, you're gonna get hurt. And if someone's gonna put a knife, it's not whether you're gonna win; it's whether you're gonna survive.
Yeah.
It's about survival. It's not about winning. And if somebody says, I've teach martial arts, I've been doing it for 20, 30 years, and I teach about Chinese culture and martial arts and ethics and this and that, but I've never had a fight in my life, and I don't think I could. I think it would freak me out. I'd shake his hand and say, wow, man. I goes, for you to say that, I respect you a lot. Because you know what you have and what you're gonna go, what you're doing with it,
and your
how
potential.
You're teach it.
Yeah.
And you're not, and your potential. You're not going to cheat your students or give them false pretendings. They're going to one day get themselves killed because somebody's pretending to be something he isn't.
Right. Yeah, very true.
So I mean, there's nothing wrong with not being able to fight.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with teaching art as it is, an art, a culture, a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I think when the people understand this, then this stupid attitude people have towards Chinese martial arts can end.
Well, I think it's short term, to be honest. I think it's something that hopefully as time goes on will show a different side. So I hope that over time this stigma will be rectified at least and better understood. Yeah. So.
Well, I mean that's what I hope to do with my films, and I haven't really filmed myself doing any martial art for a long time because my expectations of what I should be able to do are very high, and if I can't do that, I don't want people to see where I can't do something. I'd rather people remember me of how I used to be. But my daughter's like, come on, you got to come out and do something, and she's getting me back out, and she filmed me doing some iron fist.
Good.
We made some funny little little thing, to go with it. I don't want to perceive people to show that I'm arrogant or whatever. I just want to show people that I'm down to earth. I'm a
I don't
human
think
being.
I don't think
I'm
anybody
nothing.
doubts your martial ability. And if anybody
Yeah.
is logical and has a brain, they'll understand A, what you've been through, and B, your age, and that doesn't mean anything. But to keep training and that you're still actually doing something, that's just, to me, is great anyway. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, yeah. So it's been a very interesting discussion. I'm gonna I don't know if you have methods or ways that if anybody's interested to contact you, what the best way that is.
Uh, Facebook probably.
All right. Well, what I'll do is I always put contact details in the show notes. I'll put I do know your daughter Charlene. It's Charlene, correct? Yeah,
Yeah.
her
Yeah. No, any
YouTube channel.
through my daughter.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then I'll ask you to send me whatever you think is the best way, if you want to put it in public, the best way to
Okay.
contact
Yeah.
you.
I'll send you my Kung Fu email address.
Yeah, and then I'll put some links to I Am the White Tiger, etc., so people who are interested can check it out. But it's been a very interesting discussion. It was very interesting to hear your background and your history, and thank you for your time today.
Okay. Thank you very much. Bye.
Okay, and you keep well, and maybe one day when I'm in Hong Kong, hopefully I can sit down and have a coffee or another beverage with you.
Yeah. You're welcome anytime.
All right, thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Okay. Thank you. Bye. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.